Okay, people, I am here with Shiroi, aka the voice of Shiroi. As you can see, he's beaming. He's just witnessed, as we've done, Arsenal come from behind to beat Man City, and in so doing, lift Community Shield. Shiroi, how you feeling, bro?
Over the moon, but not necessarily because it's the Community Shield. Before this match, all we were saying is we need to get a result today because of what City have done to us. Everyone said that we had closed the gap last season in terms of the league, but in terms of the performances against City, we hadn't necessarily closed the gap that much. And that was what today was about for me. It was almost like the victim showing the bully that they can stand up for themselves and eventually growing into themselves and winning that battle, right? All too often when I saw Pep versus Arteta, look, for anyone that watches Top Boy, it reminded me of that scene when Jamie sat down with Duchesne at the #1 CAF, and Duchesne looked at Jamie and said, "What are you, like rubber duckies and bubble bath?" Like it was a pure men against boys situation, but it was not that today, because I look at that first half and I'll be honest. One, it takes a lot of steel to experiment with a signing that everyone says simply cannot play in the nine against the greatest team in the world. All right, and this might sound controversial, but I personally think that Kai Havertz today had more influence on the trajectory of that game than Erling Haaland did. And that is something...
I wouldn't argue with that.
You're looking at Erling Haaland with an XG of 0. You're looking at Manchester City in a first half with no shots on target. I would love to know the last time that happened and the last time that a manager was able to do that to a Guardiola side. So I am beaming, not necessarily because of the Shield, but because of the way that it went down.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So we won the Shield. How pivotal do you think that this moment is to have won a trophy, got off to a seemingly very good start? Do you think we can project that going forward?
Yeah, look, winning breeds winning, and a lot of people were talking about pre-season last year and the momentum that brought, and a lot of people were talking about pre-season this year and the fact that we perhaps didn't carry forward that momentum. What better way to start momentum than beating Manchester City at Wembley and lifting a shield and having gold around your neck in front of all your fans when you're betting your new signings in as well, by the way, yeah? There's a lot of players there that haven't lifted anything. That Jurgen Timber and Kai Havertz and Declan Rice, their first real competitive action for Arsenal results in beating the best team in the world and lifting something. So I think it could be massive. It's not something to get carried away with and say we're nailed on to win the league or we're better than Manchester City. Look, I think if you look at what City could bring off the bench, we brought on, Trossard, who's quality, but they could bring on Kevin De Bruyne. All right, they do still have that quality. And in terms of the personnel gap, arguably it's still there. But we've showed that we can ramp with the best today. And we went 1-0 down. If you go 1-0 down against City, typically they could shut up shop, they could get a second. Ramsdale with a couple of crucial saves there. One down with his hand, one with his heel, keeps us in the game. We show that belief, we show that character, we get back into the game. How often last year were we talking about the only reason we were even in with a shout was belief, playing until the final minute? When you look back at that Villa result, when you look back at that Bournemouth result, we did the same thing again today. You create your own luck. Leave yourself in with a shout, bang the goal, and take it to pens.
Absolutely, well said. And you mentioned him, and I'm going to ask you about him now. Jurien Timber, outstanding today. I thought him and Saliba were probably the standout Arsenal players. That's my personal opinion. But hey, what did you think?
No, I agree, and I think it's foreseeable that your defensive players are going to be the standout performers if you limit Erling Haaland to the amount of chances that he didn't have. Yeah. So I completely agree, and I'm not going to sit here and argue with someone if they say it was Saliba or if it was Timber. The reason I think Timber was fantastic, and to be honest with you, I think out of all our new signings, even though he wasn't the big money signing, even though he didn't have Cecil doing the rice baby for him,
didn't have the great fanfare there.
He is arguably the most pivotal signing for us in terms of the way it affects the balance of the team, not just the starting 11, but the way that we can progress if we have injuries. But for me, it was Saliba just because he was imperious in possession at times when he had world-level players around him trying to nick the ball off him. So calm, so confident, so young, not a single mistake. And there were times when he was behind in a foot race to Erling Haaland, knew that, and showed the nous of someone that's been playing the game for decades when he hasn't been. And he used his natural attributes to ultimately nullify what I would call the greatest striker in the world.
Good point. Okay, then, so moving forward, we've had the pre-season, now we've had the Community Shield. You've had a chance to look at the team in its entirety, pretty much. You're the manager, starting 11 next week. Do you go with the same guys today, or would you tinker with it a little bit? Or how would you go?
I think Forest will pose a slightly different type of threat. I think they will do very much what they did to dispatch us at the end of last year, actually. I think they'll try and absorb pressure and hit us on the counter-attack. And as such, I think we need to be very defensively resolute, which I think we were today. I wouldn't change anything in terms of the back four. But in terms of going forward, I think you're actually going to need a bit more of a technical unlocking style player down the middle. So I personally would, in fact, try and find a way to get Trossard into that team next week as opposed to Havertz. Absolutely no indictment of the way that Havertz played today. I thought if you're looking at a big centre-forwards performance today, particularly in the first half, Kai Havertz had everything but the goal. There were times when he was not only bringing the ball down and relieving pressure, but he was guarding it so well and forcing world-level players like Rodri into mistakes that created chances. Obviously, he had two that he didn't put away. He does need to put them away going forward, but I have such faith in this manager that I think if you give him time with a player and he identifies that player's position, he will improve him. And he's shown that he can do that throughout his tenure at this club.
Okay, and just finally, you've got to ask you, we spoke about it, next week is the start of the Premier League. How optimistic are you and what do you think we can achieve with this team for the coming season?
Look, very optimistic. My first appearance on this channel was January around 2 years ago, and I was sitting there thinking, we need to at least challenge for top four. All right, and even that was a bit of a long shot. And we were talking about, should we have gotten rid of Aubameyang and is Lacazette good enough? And all of those conversations are behind us to an extent now. You know, we've got a group of players now that has not only grown together and matured together, but have shown that they can push City in a title race, and today have shown that even if they go behind, they can push City over the 90 and have the bottle to beat them in pens. So of course I'm going to be optimistic. But one thing I would say is we can't just focus on Manchester City. I think that's complacent, and quite frankly, I think that's ignorant. I think Jurgen Klopp is not going to be sitting there saying, oh, well, I can't necessarily rebuild this team. He's going to go for it. Chelsea have spent, near enough $1 billion in the last 12 months or whatever it is, and they've got a high-level manager in Poch. And even outside of those clubs, you're looking at De Zerbi with Brighton. World-level manager, in my opinion, who's just apparently going to bring in players like Kudus. You've got Unai Emery doing a sterling job at Villa. There are a lot of clubs to look out for, so we can't just look at City. But quite frankly, I'm a firm believer in life. Don't look left, don't look right, don't look behind you. Focus on yourself. And I think that's what Arteta's been doing. I think that's what this club's been doing. That's what these players are doing. And for that reason and that reason alone, I'm very confident about what we can achieve this year. I'd be very happy with another title challenge and a major honour. And by that, I mean any honour other than the Carabao Cup.
You heard what the man said. He's there for the long haul. Respect, bro.
Pleasure.
Speak again soon.
Awesome. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you. And your statue as well, man. You've been very impressed with your statue. Well, we was there when you unveiled it this week. How are you feeling off that outside the Emirates?
Well, it's a great honour, to be rewarded for my contribution to the development of a club, and I just worked always to do as well as I could for the club.
Can we expect to see you more at the Emirates this season?
I travel a lot because I have responsibilities to develop the game everywhere in the world, so I've spent a lot of time on the planes, but when I am available, it will of course be a pleasure for me to join back.
Last question, how do you think the boys are going to do this season? Arsenal, are you confident Mikel can keep us competing again this season?
Yeah, I would say not only compete again, we want to win it. From last year we got one information, we were close. We improved well the squad, so this year I think we hope all that we get over the line in the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.